Hello beautifuls, welcome back to my Chanel. Oh yes, so today my lovelies, today we are in another episode of Botched Beauty. This one's a little bit different from the rest of my botched series, shall we say. So, we all know that body dysmorphia can affect people in order to get surgeries or botched beauty procedures or beauty procedures that go wrong. We can all understand that. I myself, being trans, suffer with dysphoria and I will be looking for surgeries to correct the things that I want corrected. There is an underbelly of the bodybuilding and fitness world that is a little bit dark and a little bit mysterious and quite secretive in a way that is a little bit shocking, actually. A little bit shocking, surprisingly enough, a little bit shocking. Today we're going to delve into the world of synthol. You may have heard this word before because I first came across this about 11 years ago when I was dating someone in the fitness industry, shall we say, and they happened to know someone who was looking to take it. And I remember thinking, what? Like, what? And now with the upscaling fillers in the world and the fact that every single person who wants to be fitness or seen or into anything to do with aesthetics, whether that's through sport like bodybuilding or through pageantry like trans competition, should we say, trans pageants, everybody wants to look absolutely pristine on their social media and in real life. And sometimes their genetics and their bodies will not allow them to receive that or get to that point naturally. And that's when people start to look for artificial things to implant into their body in order to produce an effect that is conducive to winning, literally to winning. So synthol, when I first came across it, I didn't exactly know what it was. I just thought it was just something that people just inject to get like a plumpness, to get like a real like bulk in that injection site area. And the reason why this botched video is a little bit different to my other videos is because this idea of needing to use synthol predominantly happens in the sporting world of bodybuilding, particularly affecting men. And that in a way doesn't often happen in my botched videos because a lot of the videos so far have been focused solely around like women's issues, women's bodies and women's problems. You don't have to be a woman in order to want to be feminine. And just like on that, on the other side of the coin is this idea of that, like, to be the most masculine you can be, you need to be bulked, you need to be massive, you need to be muscular, you need to be vascular, you need to be tanned, you need to be on stage, and you need to be in photographs. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, what is synthol? Now, when I first came across this term, I thought it was like an actual pharmaceutical grade something that people got hold of through nefarious means, should we say, and then just willy-nilly injected themselves as to where they needed that extra bulk. It looks and creates a really disproportionate, bizarre body shape that doesn't necessarily exist within nature. Where have we heard this before? Very, very sort of like the Brazilian butt lift for the muscle world. As I say, I thought it was this pharmaceutical thing that you get hold of and then you somehow just inject it into the body. That's not exactly what it is, actually. It's more of like, in a way, some sort of like odd DIY recipe that people get hold of and then inject themselves with. So synthol is also known as a site enhancement oil, and it is a bodybuilding substance, a substance used in the bodybuilding world to create extra bulk on muscles that perhaps are lagging behind in the overall aesthetical shape of the body. Interestingly enough, it is not illegal to use synthol in the UK and the USA in terms of bodybuilding. Isn't that absolutely bizarre? So site enhancement oil, often called Santol or synthol, refers to oils injected into the muscles to increase the size and change the shape. Some bodybuilders, particularly at the professional level, so we're talking like creme de la creme de la creme de la creme, injected their muscles with such mixtures to mimic the appearance of developed muscle in order to try and relate it to my majority female and LGBT audience. Yeah, it's kind of like adding that little bit extra into the body in order to really ensure that you win over everybody else in your league or your class or anything like that when you are competing. This is known as fluffing. Now, I find that term quite funny because I'm very familiar with it from the adult industry, shall we say. I'm not personally familiar. Let me just put that in there. I just know that term from that. So it is called fluffing. You fluff up all of your muscles to make them look as big as possible. Now, synthol is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. So dangerous, people have died from this substance. It is literally just a mixture of 85% oil, 7.5% lidocaine or other anesthetic, and 7.5% alcohol. Now, that oil can be anything. It can be peanut oil, it can be vegetable oil, it can be any oil. And that is really, really scary because your body cannot really function when it has random oils injected into it. You can get embolism, you can get trauma, you can get inflammation, you can die, you can inject an artery and straight up die. It is not actually a restricted substance, so sadly anyone can get a hold of this or make it themselves for injection. And quite rare cases of people using synthol have ended up in them needing like emergency surgery in order to prevent them from actually straight up dying, and sometimes that does not work. One of the most popular figures that uses synthol that you have probably seen yourself, actually, he's done the rounds around the internet, he's used in memes, and he's been a part of like articles and stuff for Shock Factor on Twitter and Facebook and places like that, is Valdir Segato. Now, Valdir Segato is 48 years old and is from Brazil. In fact, he might be 49 at the time of this video making. It is shocking to me that someone has done this to themselves in a way that is so unhealthy and so dangerous, and in a way also sharing their story in a way that has made it so that other people would be more interested in doing this drug and doing this this synthol injection. So I'm just reading this article here from the Mirror that says that Valdir Segato's biceps measure 23 inches as a result of painful synthol injections. In this article, he actually says that he was inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger growing up and wanted to go from this really scrawny, tiny child into actually being able to protect himself and be a masculine, manly man in his eyes. Now, this is in which the dysmorphia has set in quite clearly for this gentleman, because instead of actually working to create his body as more muscly as he can through a natural means, maybe that's not exactly possible for him. He has wound up injecting himself with copious amounts of synthol. These images are quite shocking to look at, and also a little bit like distressing, if you know what I mean. When I look at this gentleman, I see and I feel like someone who is combating with something on such a profound level that it's taken them to this journey and doing this in such a dangerous way that is like quite uncomfortable to look at, actually. It says here that he was inspired by the Incredible Hulk and is risking his life by injecting oil into his arms to make his muscles bigger. I don't know if you know, I don't know if you know, but injections are a very important part of medicine, and in order to do injections in the most sensible and safe way, you have to really be trained in how to correctly aspirate an injection, especially when it comes to things like fillers. The fillers are probably the closest thing I can think of that's in this similar vein, in a way, that's like we're injecting something to plump the area up. It's not quite the same at all in terms of, like, you know, the overbearing socioeconomic scenario, but it is very comparable in the outcome. There are so many specific things that need to be taken into account when you are injecting substances to plump up an area, shall we say. Needle type, needle gauge, needle length, what layer of the skin you are injecting it in, if you're injecting it straight into the intramuscular or subcutaneously or into the epidermis. Like, there are so many different things that you need to take into account. And as someone who is clearly desperately looking for a way to make himself fit into the mold of what he thinks is beautiful, has stumbled across a way that is shocking. If you look at his shoulders in this picture, granted this picture is really difficult to look at, his traps here, these are the trapezoid muscles, they are knobbly, they are bumpy, they do not look legitimately like muscles. The overbearing outcome is not that this person looks muscular, I think that they look swollen. It's really weird when you see someone who is like super muscular, it's like their whole body catches up to some level of muscle. Even their hands start to look muscly and their wrists start to look muscly. But if you notice, his forearms are just that of like his natural body shape and type. Interestingly, this article kind of goes down a really weird way of explaining Valdir's body. It says here, despite his humongous proportions today, Valdir hasn't always been muscly. Now that is like a weird way to say this, because it's almost putting onto the viewers or the audience that like in some way synthol makes you muscly, or that like in some way those two are interconnected, and they are absolutely not. In order for someone to become muscular, they may look to more like exogenous substances, shall we say, like exogenous testosterone or steroids to take to make them more muscly. Absolutely that happens. You would be obscene to think that it doesn't. In order to become muscular, you need to pay attention to so many things in your life. You need to pay attention to your gym routine, to what you eat, to how your body type behaves, so how you have genetics and how your genetics work with becoming more muscular through the gym. And that is such a sad thing to see with this guy, because quite clearly Maybe he hasn't sorted out those other things. It just seems like he's trying to find a quick fix to a problem from his childhood that maybe has carried forward into his adult life. And it's really sad to see. And I feel like this thing is quite unspoken in a lot of men's lives. I feel like men are far less likely to talk about the problems that they suffer as a child and then carry them fully into their adulthood life with them and end up looking at things like, I need to be so big and muscular to protect myself for my sport and also like impress my family or my community. And then when they see a muscle not growing as much, they'll be like, oh, well, maybe I can just do a little synthol and just plump it up a little bit. And they don't realize, or perhaps don't fully understand the risks involved. Or maybe they do and they don't care. And it's really scary that it happens. Another person that this has affected is Greg Valentino. Greg Valentino is probably the most famous synthol user. There is a video on YouTube that is so shocking, I will not be able to put it in this video because I will get demonetized for breaking community guidelines, because it is shocking. I will tell you the title of this video, and if you want to go and look, you can go and look, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of what's happening, shall we say. So Greg Valentino, this video is called Greg Valentino Drains Synthol from Biceps. Now, Greg Valentino started to experience inflammation, started to experience infection and from having synthol injected into his biceps. In this video, he literally takes a couple of hypodermic needles, pops them into his bicep and draws out gunk that is quite vile and disgusting multiple times in an attempt to try and save his bicep from the growing infection. It is shocking. I don't know how to navigate this conversation quite as well as I would like to, and I think that you guys in the comments can also like weigh in on this, because I don't want to come across like I'm being insensitive or that I'm stepping on anybody's toes with this kind of thing, because I've suffered with body dysmorphia myself. I know how it feels, and I know the desperation you feel to want to investigate other avenues of solving your problem. Now, Greg Valentino has had quite a difficult life, shall we say. He's actually written a book which is available on Amazon called Death, Drugs and Muscle, The Greg Valentino Story. Now, Greg Valentino actually lost someone really important in his life. He lost his girlfriend, and I can't imagine what it must be like to go through that level of grief, in a way, to be like, you found the love of your life and you want to spend the rest of your life with them and they've been snatched from you well and truly before their time. I feel like that is such a sad story to hear, that it is no wonder why Greg has not had the most like mentally stable time over the last sort of like, well, over the last several decades of his career, and has turned to making himself feel most comfortable. And I'm guessing the way that he has done that is by making himself the most muscular. And by doing that, he has also then inadvertently welcomed in the demons that say things like, you are not the most muscular, maybe you should inject this thing to make you the most muscular. The problem that I have with all of this sort of thing is that, in a way, the bodybuilding world is a mysterious, very secretive sports cult, in a way, if you think about it like that. There is an underlying current of negativity and also a brothership in which is quite beautiful and alarming at the same time. It's a way that people like share information to get as big as they can and to get as much out of their life as they can, but also it's actually quite often turns people down this really dark route of drug abuse, of dysphoria and dysmorphia, and then also depression and mental health problems because of that. It's really difficult to see this because I like a muscly man. I'm not gonna lie, they're my favorite type of man. But it is such a shame to see these people that go through such dramatic body transformations being so troubled at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's really difficult to understand, and it's really difficult to see and to witness. And I feel like that's why I want to make these kind of videos, is to point out, look after the people in your life, look after the people that are around you, that are looking, that you might even hear about them joking about going to like, maybe I'll just do this now, and you just have to be like, I'm here for you if you need to speak about anything, if you really need to offload, especially now in the pandemic. You just hear this like mental health of everyone is just falling. I mean, gyms have only just reopened now and everything's still a bit up in the air, do you know what I mean? But people have really struggled. Just keep an ear open to your friends and your family and make sure that they aren't turning to nefarious ways to try and keep muscle, build muscle, or become part of this world that might actually swallow them whole and leave them with nothing. Another really high profile figure in the bodybuilding world who has a potential, well, an alleged relationship with synthol, shall we say, is Rich Piana. Now, Rich Piana was a very well-accomplished bodybuilder who had his own business called 5% Nutrition. Literally almost like, in a way, I feel like kind of became the ideal goal for a lot of bodybuilders to see through to like what they want to be, if you know what I mean. Like an ideal career goal to reach the heights of Rich Piana. So Rich Piana has been incredibly open about his substance use to get to his body. He's been open about taking testosterone, human growth hormone, insulin, among other things as well. And you can see from his body and his style, his whole life basically, that he was like a really enigmatic figure. He actually passed away on August 25th, 2017. He passed away in his home from a sudden collapse, and many aspects were considered as to why he passed away. Some suggested foul play, some suggested substance abuse, but the likeliness is that his body type and what he did to his body had an effect on the way that his body was coping with everything that has happened. If you do use things like human growth hormone and steroids and Synthol and all these injectables, eventually that's going to take a toll on your cardiovascular health, whether that's through swelling of the heart, through HGH just growing all your organs, and then you get water on the brain, and it's all very bad. I'm not here to speculate though, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to suggest that Rich Piana was one of these figures in bodybuilding that loads of people look up to, and in a way, it's really dangerous and double-edged to create content that is so brazen and open about how you use your drugs to get to a certain body type, because whether you like it or not, people are going to follow in your footsteps. I always say this, and it's just like, if you put it on the internet, people will do it. Even if you say, don't do this at home, girls, don't try this at home, someone will always try it at home. Someone will always try it at home. Rich Piana even had like a really incredibly strong, like, personal look about him. Just like, look how enigmatic and like intense this man looks. So of course people are going to listen to what he has to say, listen to what his business is talking about, and also take his advice on what to use when you want to get a certain outcome. Going from what I said earlier, apparently there is some, what's the word, like speculation that Rich Piana took Synthol in order to make his muscles appear more big. Apparently there is a lot of controversy around Rich Piana because Rich Piana was in fact a YouTube vlog sensation. Like, loads of people watched his vlogs, and the bodybuilding community really was crushed when they lost him as an ambassador for bodybuilding, if you know what I mean. But he was not free of controversy himself. Apparently, he had been accused of using fake weights in his video, which is where, you know, like when they do this one and when they do this one, apparently he had fake weights on the bars that weren't actually weighing what they really said they were weighing. Apparently, his wife was someone who would just inject him with plumping substances to just get that super plump look, and apparently posted overly edited photos to his Instagram and Facebook. I can't really talk about edited photos because I feel like everyone super edits their photos now, especially if they are super high up in the public eye at all times. In a weird way, if you wanted to actually go and watch some of his vlogs to find out a little bit more about Rich Piana and the lifestyle that he has led, it's still perfectly available on YouTube for you to just type right in and have a little look-see and make your own choices up, my lovelies. I still don't quite know how I feel about all of this. I feel like men are one of those things where it's like, kind of like the undercurrent of beauty often forgets the problems that men individually face, because I feel like the beauty world is seen predominantly as a feminine female thing, and that's not the case. Make sure you check on your husbands, make sure you check on your sons, make sure you check on your friends, because Synthol and injectables are one of those things that you have to absolutely veer away from. Unless you are somehow having implants done by a registered medical professional, you are just inviting devastation into your lives. And that is all I have to say on the subject of Synthol, my lovelies. So, my love, shall I get on to the Twitch shout-out of the week? And that is Bebe Star. Thank you so much for following me over on Twitch, you stunning woman on the go. If you want to be in with a chance of being featured in my next videos Twitch shout out, make sure you go and follow me over on Twitch. It is Luxaria Plays, and I stream 3 nights a week. Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. I think this video might actually, incidentally, invite perhaps a lot of controversy from potentially people who are of the male persuasion and the fitness persuasion coming for me. You never know, do you? You never know what type of an audience you're going to reach. Once again, I want to say a massive thank you to my Patreons. You can see yourselves on the screen right here. And once again, I want to say a massive thank you and a huge shout out to my top tier Patreons and channel members: Stephanie Niatupski, Moragani Wolf, Erin Concourt, Magusta Lagoose, Stephutek, Caitlin Wright, Megan Holly, Dana Broderick, Moldy Apple, Orkos Emoji, Lynx Howell, and Jared Pavlovsky. Thank you so much for following me and supporting this channel and making sure we thrive and survive, girls. Once again, my loves, check on your loved ones, make sure they're not making irreversible mistakes like this, and I will see you in the next video, my gorgeous people. See you then.